Big one in Chicago on Saturday night over at Soldier Field. Max, appreciate you coming on, giving us a couple minutes. Fair to say with this Chicago team, and which has been another, I guess, strange year, this is getting to the point where it's pretty much do or die, especially at home, to make sure you get 3 points.
Yeah, unfortunately, and Matt, first of all, thanks so much for having me. But, that's kind of been what we've been saying and beating that drum the last couple of weeks. And now it's hit a point where, with only a matter of matches left, it's do or die just about every time out, especially you got to hold your own at home. The schedule is not too daunting, and that's been the case, pretty much for the final 8 matches of the year. Obviously, we're getting you guys without Forsberg. Both of our sides have had their respective struggles, not winning since the middle of July. And, that last win was against a pretty beaten up FC Cincinnati side, even though it was at their home pitch. But yeah, it's just been slow starts, really. I mean, 7 goals in the first half all year long just hasn't really cut it. Need more of that sense of urgency in that first half because the flashes have been there. I mean, the second 45 minutes last Saturday against DC United, we were flying on all cylinders. Get the early goal, just a banger from about 20 plus yards out from Andrew Gutman in his 100th MLS start, scores for his hometown club for the first time. That was quite a moment, but couldn't really build off that to get a result.
When you think of it, take me into that game a little bit last week because at least you think you're the home team. Both teams right now on the outside of the playoffs, at least going into last weekend. That's one I'm sure Chicago is thinking as much as this week against Red Bull is we better get it. Last week, probably even more so. Like we have to make sure we beat DC because in essence, that's a team you're fighting for the same exact spot for. What was the mood coming out of that game other than maybe just overall disappointment?
Yeah, I mean, just it's kind of been a similar mood to what we've seen this year, where it often the case is not what we need to do, it's what we need to avoid doing. Because there's just been too many self-inflicted wounds. I mean, to give up 2 goals in the span of just about 3 minutes, both really off of throw-ins, is just something you can't have happen, really in April, let alone obviously at this point in the season in September. The guys bounced back tremendously, but as Frank Lopez said in the post-match press conference, we're getting into really good situations with glimmers of goal in that final third. It's just either that last ball or that finishing touch that's been lacking. He's been a fan of the positions we've created, the shots we've created, just haven't really been finding the back of the net. And I actually thought we matched up really well with DC because last time we played them at their place, the second half, we just shut down Benteke. Carlos Terran's got great size. Wyatt Omsberg is very physical back there as well, but the ball fell to him in a fortuitous spot. He finished it home on a redirection and then, another goal just moments later.
Funny to hear you give that description that the coaching staff would give because that's the description right now for Red Bull and probably most teams in the league. Got to figure a way
Yeah.
to finish teams off when you have the opportunity. These teams, Max, you remember it. These teams played back in April. It was a little bit of a lackluster game. Red Bull picked up the red card, scoreless draw. And I think for both teams, they're in similar spots, even though New York in a playoff spot right now. But wins have been hard to come by. This is in so many ways the definition of a 50-50 game.
Yeah, I think absolutely this one is quite a toss-up. And from our perspective, this team on paper is so much better than it was last year. Significant improvement at really 4 positions. I think we talked about that the last time you and I spoke. It just hasn't really fully come to fruition. Obviously, missing Rafa Shios was big with the yellow card accumulation last week as well. They'll get him back. A couple of guys returning from international duty. So I mean, Frank really should have the full collection of his troops here for a match that you got to go out and get 3 points, got to go full gung ho. And I would expect that opening quarter hour to be huge. And I remember the New York Red Bulls game that's still the one we had the most possession we've had all year long. We almost actually matched that mark without being up a man versus DC, but still never got that second goal.
I'm sure you're probably tired of asking it, but for our listenership and Red Bull fans, why did it not work with Shaqiri? Because that's obviously a storyline for you guys. Looked like a great signing when he came in. Didn't really go the way that anybody, I'm sure, including him, would have wanted. Is the mood around the team better? Is it different? What's the story?
I think it's anybody's guess as to why it really never worked out. It did feel like, the Shaqiri you get for his national team is the Shaqiri we got in big moments, in big matches. the one with 60 plus thousand fans versus Inter Miami last year at home. We got the Shaqiri that everybody thought we were getting right. So he certainly had his moments where he looked like that massive signing that this club, had really needed. But I mean, between when he left, I should say, and was just on international duty at the Euros, the team really got the best out of Brian Gutierrez as kind of that true number 10. Two guys that, weren't necessarily completely cohesive when they were working out there together because it kind of sent Guti out of his normal everyday role. But I don't know that it necessarily lightened the load or anything. But when he was gone, I mean, we were flying pretty high. I think Guti was playing with a newfound confidence, knowing that he kind of had the freedom to operate in the way that he has generally played throughout his entire career, what he's comfortable with.
Good player, Brian Gutierrez, and I'm sure he'll factor in tomorrow. Max, appreciate you coming on a Friday here as we record before the game on Saturday. Appreciate your time. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow in person, and hopefully a good game for both of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a good call tomorrow, too.